Hey everybody, just a couple minutes late. Yep, so we'll start at the 5-minute mark like usual, guys. Let me just set the quad up as usual while you guys wait for a few minutes. Yeah, any questions as usual, just leave it in the comments as usual. And then we'll start from the top up as soon as we begin in a few minutes after I set this up, and we'll let people funnel in. We will probably do this for like 40, 45 minutes or so before my next lesson. Yeah, just chill for a couple more minutes, guys. Just gonna grab some water, guys. Bear with, just wait a couple more minutes and we'll begin as usual. Alrighty, let's wait a couple more minutes, guys. Can't believe it's mid-March already, though. Let's see. Let's see who's in here. Any questions, feel free to leave it in the chat as usual. We'll start in a couple of minutes. We'll let people funnel in while I also set up. I was running a little late today, guys. Got caught up with other things. Lost track at the time a bit, but we're only a few minutes late of being a few minutes late. So we'll see what's up. Hey, Tony. Yep, this angle should be okay. All right, we'll start in approximately 40 seconds. Not too many people here today. Might be a short one. We'll see how things go. We'll see how things go as the chat continues. Usually we have enough questions to keep this going for like probably like 50, 60 minutes. I got until around 6:50 today, so we got 40 minutes or so today. So any questions, feel free to let me know in the chat, and then I'll answer them to the best of my ability. So we'll see what's up today. Let me just make sure I got everything. Alrighty, let's work from the top and see what happens today. Dips is asking, hey Larry, I've been struggling to keep the club more behind me to come more from the inside. Can you suggest an effective drill to combat that? So you're struggling to keep the club coming behind you. So I'm assuming that the club's getting thrown outwards too early. So drill, a feel I really like. It's not really so much a drill. It is more so a feel and an intent, right? You have to make sure you're trying to intent and command the club to do the things that allow you to come from the inside. So we know coming from the inside means things more back, things more down, right? The more the club heads up, the more outwards it can potentially go. The more back and down the club head travels, feeling like it comes from behind your right shoe, the more inside that you're going to be. So if you want to come more from the inside, you're struggling to come more from the inside, you literally just got to do whatever it takes to get the club coming from behind you. So the first thing I usually have people do, especially when it's someone I don't know, I have never seen their swing before, is feeling like they loop their arms, hands, club behind them. We loop things back so the club continues to travel back and down, feeling like it comes from behind their trail foot, behind their trail shoe. If I can feel like the club comes from behind that trail shoe, I'm going to swing from the inside, guaranteed, okay? Let me just change the screen here because I don't think the club screen is going to come up. But you're going to see here 18.5 degrees inside out, which is very, very severe. But I also looped it quite a bit because if you're someone who struggles with getting the club head to come from behind you, to come from the inside, you're going to do this the most you can, right? So literally loop your arms, hands, and club as far back and down as you can, coming from the inside. Feel like the club's coming from behind your trail shoe. See where the club heads? It's behind my trail shoe. That's the feel. It's never going to come from there. You have to feel like it comes from there so it slings outwards to be more inside out. And that's the exaggeration, okay? That's what you need if you're someone who struggles with being inside out, okay? So hope that helps, Dips. That is what I would suggest you try to do, okay? Hey, Tony. Butch, hello, senior golfer here. How can I save my back? Not as flexible as I was 40 years ago. So flexibility isn't going to be the be-all, end-all in preserving your back, right? I mean, it's hard to say exactly what you need to do because back health is a very, very serious thing. I would suggest seeing someone in person, whether it's a coach, whether it's a physiotherapist, and a athletic therapist, a chiro, whatever it is, so they give you a better customized plan for you because back health is no joke. It's very tough for me or anyone on the internet to help without knowing what exactly it is that may be causing you to have back issues, Butch. So really when it comes to back health, it's very, very tough to say exactly. A couple of generic things, for example, could be one, making sure when you make your backswing, you let your hips turn the most so your upper body can turn the most, right? You want to try to reduce the separation between the upper and lower body in the backswing. Most people, especially if you're a senior golfer, have been taught, a very general statement, have been taught to resist the lower body, just try to turn the upper body the most you can, but that's going to put too much strain on your back, right? The more you turn the lower body, the more the upper body can turn with less strain. If you try to maintain that trail knee flaps, you try to resist the lower body turn, just try to turn the upper body with the lower body turning, you are going to probably strain your back. Aside from that, you also don't want to try to slide your lower body towards the target too much because that leans the upper body back. The more you do this, the tilting upper body, the more you're also going to probably strain your back, right? Those are two really common things I see people do who may have back issues, but again, that doesn't replace personal guidance for you that you should see someone in person, right? And then one more thing you can really think of is in your finish, don't arch your back, right? People try to get the reverse C look, but the reverse C extended look happens because you're extended, you're as tall as you can, hips extended, glute squeeze, core squeeze, but my back is packed in, it's braced, it's neutral. We don't get this look by just arching the low back. That's also very dangerous, right? So those are three things you can kind of look for, Butch, that you can try to avoid doing. But again, if you're scared for your back health, for your spine health, I would definitely recommend you see someone in person to really make sure you do nothing to hurt yourself. Okay. Hey, Kwan. Hey, Mark. Hey, it's not pestering at all. You're making very good progress. All right, Justin. Hey, Larry, I have to work incredibly hard to not bow and hinge my wrist at the top of my backswing. Have been really trying to keep my angles neutral. Any tips or drills to recommend? If you're so excessively bowing, and so you're trying to not bow and not hinge your wrist, right? Typically, people who bow their wrist will not hinge excessively. It's a very tough motion to do. I'm assuming maybe you're saying you're cupped. Like this is bowed. So I'm a right-handed golfer. My lead wrist is my left wrist. This is flat, bowed, cupped, right? People who hinge too much will be cupped. They will not be bowed. It's very tough to be bowed and hinge too much, okay? In terms of just trying to not be more neutral with your wrist angle, is literally feeling zero wrist hinge is the way to go. At the top of your backswing, your thumbs and club is pointing at the target, right? You want to feel like your thumbs point away from the target as a feeling like the club's pointing away from the target, away from the screen. That's the easiest way to feel neutral wrist angles, to not excessively hinge your wrist or maybe excessively bow your wrist. But again, it's tough to, you may be, I'm assuming you're maybe saying cup because it's very tough to excessively bow and excessively hinge your wrist at the top of your backswing. Hey, Kwan, good to hear. Hash from JC. Hey, Larry, my shoulders are opening very early in the downswing with my driver causing outside over the top and hits off the heel. Do you have any tips to keep my shoulders closed and come more from the inside? I wouldn't, if you're coming over the top, the focus is not to try to keep your shoulders more closed, right? Your focus is really just to make sure your arms, hands, and clubs stay more back, right? The upper body turning is not necessarily a bad thing, okay? You coming over the top is not because your upper body and shoulders is turning early. It's just because your arms get thrown out very early. Your concepts may be a little bit flawed. So instead of trying to not turn your upper body, keeping your shoulders more closed in the downswing, I would suggest what I said at the beginning of this live to dips is feeling like your arms, hands, club loop behind you. If you loop and turn, that's awesome. That's a great combination to have. So it sounds like maybe you turn okay. Hard to say without seeing how you swing, but it would be safe to say if you're coming over the top from the top of your backswing, your arms, hands, club create a certain structure. Loop this structure back behind you so the club comes from behind your trail shoe, okay? So if you're over the top, you look like this in the downswing. I want you to loop it back as much as you can in the transition and downswing, and that's what's going to help you more so than trying to keep your shoulders more closed, okay, Hash? So I would suggest you try to do that first before doing anything else if you're over the top. Patrick, hey Larry, what's the best drill to get angle of attack more positive with driver, aka hit up on it more? I would definitely, so two things come to mind. I would try to stay on your back foot. You may be going to your lead foot too early in the downswing. So feeling like you're staying on your back foot as you hit, and also down hinging and releasing your wrist angles early. If you can release your wrist angles early as a feel, as an intent, the club will shallow out more. The club head will lower earlier and more, and that will definitely help you hit more up or at least less down on it. Okay, so hit off your back foot and then down hinge and release your wrist angles right off the bat to start the downswing, and see how that goes from there, Patrick. If your sole focus is to just make your angle of attack more positive. Sean, hey Larry, regarding driver, I've been finding success in both in distance and accuracy with a near full arm extension and wide backswing. Is this form likely to cause problems in the long run? Hard to say, Sean, right? I mean, without seeing your swing, it's hard to say if it's going to cause issues or not. You feeling and thinking your full arm extension and wide backswing may not even be that wide, may not even be that extended, right? Everyone's feel and real is totally different. It's impossible for me or anyone else to know what your feel and real is without any prior working relationship. Even clients I work with for a long time, it's only after working with them for a long time that I can guesstimate what they need to feel to create what kind of reel for them if they ask me questions down the road, because I have a working relationship with them. But for no working relationship, it's impossible to answer that question if it's going to cause problems in the long run. You feeling near full arm extension and wide backswing may just be normal, may just be for you in a much better range. And especially for you finding success right now in both distance and accuracy, it definitely doesn't sound like you're doing something bad. So I would continue trying to do it. If you have doubts in the long run, I would suggest working with someone to talk it over, so they can watch you swing, whether it's online coaching or in-person coaching. That question can only be answered if that someone can actually see how you swing, Sean. You're welcome, Dips. Tony, I've been doing your loop drills every day for the 2 months and seems to be going well. My swing path much straighter or from inside on strike mat, but I'm hitting behind the ball. Any advice and drills, please? If you're someone who's outside in and you've calibrated yourself to hit solid being outside in, coming more from the inside, it's definitely going to be, you may hit the ground first a little bit more often than not. I would suggest it's a point of just hitting balls and practicing, right? You need to hit balls to just recalibrate your senses to learn how to get good contact with this new club path, right? Without seeing you swing, it's tough to say exactly what you need. More often than not, people who chunk the ball, their hands are pulling down too soon, their hands are coming down too early in relationship to how much they've turned. So what I mean by that is typically the hands obviously have to come lower than the downswing, but they come lower because the rotation of the body pushes the arms and pushes the hands lower. For most people, they bring the hands lower independently from the torso turn, and that's what's going to cause them to chunk it. So just because you're looping it, you still got to make sure your hands are staying high, right? Staying high, not coming down early. That's what I would suggest you look for, Tony, but it is going to take some time and reps. K Rutgers, hey Larry, should my head stay behind the ball for the entire swing? Really depends on the overall movement. I have no I've never asked any of my clients to keep their head back behind the ball. I honestly have never said that to any of my clients at all, keeping their head behind the ball. The bigger focus really should be how the body is moving as a whole, right? Sure, I would love for most of my clients to move behind the ball in the backswing. You turn and load into your inside trail side. And then from there, how much you go to your lead side really depends on what kind of swing they're coming from. Generally, I don't really like too much lateral movement because because the target is on the lead side for everybody. So for me as a right-handed golfer, the target's on the left side. I'm gonna go to the left side. All my right-handed clients is eventually gonna go to the left side, right? So that kind of lateral movement's gonna happen. There shouldn't be any keep your head behind the ball thought and intent, because more often than not, keeping the head back behind the ball often in the downswing as a thought often makes them tilt back. So I generally wouldn't think about that. If your head stays behind the ball, whatever, if you hit it, great. But I wouldn't think of the head staying behind the ball as a focus or a feel at all for any of my clients. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, welcome, Butch. Yep, yeah, Justin. Yeah, so whatever I said, just feel zero hinge, point your thumbs away from the target should definitely help. You're welcome, Hash. Sean, as a tack to the driver form question, my swing speed is currently 117 to 120. I'm just wondering if my height and flexibility may be giving me a crutch against bat form. Like, again, it's hard to say without seeing your swing, right? It's impossible for me to say you have bat form without seeing how you swing. If you're seeing better distance and better accuracy with you feeling extra wide and extra full arm extension, I'm not going to tell you to stop doing it without seeing how you swing. So really, it's a question that I can't, like that long-term question can't really be answered unless someone sees, unless I see your swing or someone else sees your swing. Patrick, what are the main causes of shanks? Can they be hands too far from body at impact? So typically, how shanks happen is obviously the hosel of the club moves towards the ball, right? So you just gotta think, right? What causes the hosel to go towards the ball? More often than not, people are not going to set up with the hosel on the ball. They set up with the ball in the middle of the face, right? So you can see from there, if I move towards my toes, I move forward towards the ball, towards my toes, that pushes the hosel towards the ball. That's one thing that could cause shanks. People who go towards the toes in the downswing could cause shanks. Number two, hands leaving your chest, and you can see my hands pull outwards towards the ball. That could also move the hosel towards the ball, right? That could also cause shanks. You just really want to do things and be mindful of things that make the hosel and the club move towards the ball. Do not go to your toes. Do not pull your arms outwards. Those two things could definitely be things to look for if you're shanking the ball, okay? So I will look at those two things first. No, that's okay, Sean. I'm just going down the questions as I see them, so don't mind me if I answer your second question, your tag up a few minutes later. Thomas, Larry, well delivered technical information, technically informative content. Thoughts on front heel coming off the ground and backswing for a more powerful player. I don't really teach any I don't really teach any of my clients. Maybe I got one or two to have their lead heel come off the ground in the backswing. It'd have to be a player who really does not have the range of motion to make a full turn. Then I may suggest lead heel come off the ground in the backswing. But if you're a powerful player, I don't know why you would want to get the lead heel off the ground in the backswing, right? You don't need extra power unless you're trying to try to get into long drive competitions. I just think for my preferences, for what I like, for most players I see, I would not recommend front heel coming off the ground in the backswing. But again, I'm not gonna, if you hit it well, you swing it well, you're happy with how you play, I'm not gonna tell you to stop getting your front heel off the ground in the backswing. Mark, so for you, hitting it fat, your hands actually don't pull down too much, in all honesty. From the videos that you've been sending me, I don't think your hands are pulling down too much at all. It's just other things in play. You're not. I mean, I don't tell you this because we haven't gone there yet, and I don't want you to go too far ahead. So I will tell you maybe in a week or so. Just keep working on what we're doing. But in your case, Mark, your hands are definitely. I would definitely consider you not pulling your hands down too much in your downswing. You're welcome, K. Ruckers. Yu Jung Liu, any drills for arm, body, hip sync together? My coach said my hip is too active and move too fast in my hands. So honestly, Yu Jung, as much as I would love to help, if you're working with a coach, I would not feel comfortable telling you to do something when you should already be listening to whoever you're working with, right? I have no idea what his plans are for you. I have no idea what his vision for your development is. It would be unnecessary for me to suggest otherwise, right? If you have any questions, I would suggest you ask your coach, that. So ask him whatever you ask me, any drill for arm, body, hip sync together. I would have you ask him. If it's because you're doubting him, then you guys probably shouldn't work together, right? You guys should save each other's time, save your time, save his or her time. If there's doubt in your head that he may not be leading you down the road, because if you trust him with your game, don't ask me or anyone else for advice in terms of your swing. Trust him. He is your coach. He has a vision for how he wants to develop you. I would suggest you ask him any questions you may have, Yu Jung. No need to apologize at all, Sean. Again, I just go down the list when I answer questions. So if I go down there later on, then I'll go down there. Peer impact. Should we have a trigger to start takeaway like shoulders? Depends on the player, right? I mean, some people, they might think shoulders, some people may think feet, some people may think hands. Really depends. Some people may think everything starts together. Really depends on what you need peer impact, right? So you experiment with it. If you're working with someone, talk to whoever you're working with. If you don't work with someone, you just learn this through yourself, by yourself, through YouTube, through experimenting at the range. You have to try it. It's impossible for me to answer should you have a trigger to start your takeaway because it's different for everybody. It's so player specific to answer that question. So try it out at the range, see what you like, see what you don't like, and then you can learn that way through a series of trial and error. M. Larry, as a lefty, I have two major issues. I don't have enough leg drive rotation and come in pretty steep. What's the first thing I should do? If you come in pretty steep, I would definitely not worry about your leg drive and rotation, okay? I would try to think about why you're coming in so steep. Chances are you're holding in your wrist angles and you're pulling your hands down. So thinking about the loop, if you watch earlier in this video on the replay, I talked about the looping your arms, hands, club back behind you to start the downswing as something to look at. I talk about the loop quite a bit in a lot of my videos on the YouTube channel. I would suggest you try that first, right? Coming in steep is not fun. Regardless if you have good leg drive rotation or not, coming in steep is not fun. If you come in steep, chances are you're probably not going to have good leg drive and rotation. So if you loop it, so if you incorporate the loop, your arms, hands, and club come in a better spot, then you actually have a chance to incorporate good leg drive and rotation. So definitely fix the steepness first. Think about the loop, try to implement the loop, and then go from there to see if that helps. And Rustin Dustin, I was actually just thinking about you. Haven't showed up on my page. Keep up the good work. Thank you for thinking about me. This week the videos have been kind of slow because for some reason I don't know where I put my memory card. I got two memory cards, one for each camera, and literally they both disappeared either from my desk or on my table beside my computer. I honestly have no idea where it is. I checked my pockets. It's not in my pockets. So, but the memory cards just actually came in. So videos will resume as normal next week. But thank you for thinking of me, Rustin Dustin. Yep, all good, Mark. All good. And you're welcome, Yu Jung. Yeah, talk to whoever you're working with. That's the best course of action for you. Hey, Tom. Just a normal Thursday evening here, doing a 6 p.m. live before a couple more lessons to wrap up the day. So just a pretty normal day. Good that things are normal. Frederick Hess. Larry, what is your best swing field advice for someone looking to improve? That is honestly a question that I cannot answer. Don't know what you need to improve on. Don't know how you swing. If I don't know what your issues are, if I don't know how you swing, I can't really suggest anything, right? At least if you tell me what your issues are that you're trying to work on, it would be easier for me to tell you or suggest to you a feel. But without that information, it's impossible to suggest you a feel. So if you want to give me more information before I call it a day in 20 minutes or so, feel free to do that, and I'll be happy to answer that question for you, Frederick, when I get there. Adam, at one point in the backswing, do we need to start transferring weight forward? That depends on the player. I do think most amateur players have been told to transfer weight forward, transfer weight left, and it's actually made them do it too early. For a lot of my clients, I have them load the trail side and feel like they push and squat and rotate, push and torque into the trail side to start that downswing. So I actually don't have any of my clients to feel like they start transferring weight forward in the backswing at all. It's something that I don't really prefer. So to answer your question, I would say at no point for most of my clients. You may be a special case where you may need to feel some transfer, but for most people I've seen on the range, people who send me videos, it's definitely not the case. Hey, peer impact. Yeah, if you like thinking left shoulder rotate under chin, then you continue doing that. If it works well for you, no point in changing it. Arnold, Larry, can you show us a drill on how to transfer weight to the lead side on the driver's swing while staying behind the ball? So I can't show you that drill because you shouldn't have to think about transferring weight to the lead side, right? Transferring lead side while thinking about staying behind the ball is probably the worst thing you could actually try to do. Most people who think transfer weight to the lead side and stay behind the ball is going to push into the lead foot, slide the lower body, and in an effort to keep the head behind the ball, they start tilting back. That's disaster for most people. That's going to be no rotation. You're going to be no rotation. And if you don't rotate your body, you're going to be rotating your hands severely. Your dispersion will be super, super wide for most or more often than not. So I would not suggest trying to transfer weight forward while keeping behind the ball. Okay. So I can't really answer that question for you. I would just not suggest anything. That's not the right. I don't think that's the right way to think about trying to improve someone's driver's swing. In all honesty, so yeah, definitely not what you suggest. So in terms of a drill to do what you want to do, I would not try to do what you want to do. What you're asking me, Arnold. Ben, do you do virtual coaching? Yeah, I do. I do a lot of online coaching. With people around the world. You can email me at larry@larrycheunggolf.com. I always email everyone back. So if you don't hear from me, you check your spam or you email me again. But yeah, I do a lot of online coaching with people around the world with a lot of success, actually. K Rutgers, do you have a favorite course on the GTA? No, not really. I enjoy playing most of the courses I've been able to play. Playing golf is already a very, very big luxury and a big blessing, in all honesty. So just being able to play golf is enough for me. No favorites. I'm a member at Cedar Brae. I have a lot of friends. Cedar Brae Golf Club in Toronto. I have a lot of friends there. I enjoy that place a lot. I've been really lucky to play a lot of other courses in the GTA, like Goodwood, like Copperwood. Really, really fun courses to play. But I wouldn't say I have a favorite course to play. Just being able to play golf with some friends is already really, really nice. Jackson, if my stance is too wide in driver, could that be a cause of balance issues? I played baseball and have tendency to lift feet more than normal. Only one way to find out what you think is wide compared to what I think is wide may be totally different, right? So a good general idea for how wide your stance be is to take the width of your stance if you're to do a back squat, right? So for instance, if I do back squats and my feet is roughly this wide, then this is a good starting spot. Okay, I'm not going to do a back squat like this. I'm probably not going to try to swing driver like this either, because especially when you swing driver and even like anything in general, right? The more explosive you want to be, the more solid base you want to be. The back squat or doing cleans are very explosive movements. So and you want to try to translate that intent from the feet to the body as you would when a driver swings. So starting your stance as if you were doing a back squat or a clean would be a very good spot to try, and then you can kind of customize it from there. Robbie, hey Larry, I always release my club too early and it's fully released before I even make contact with the ball. Any tips? So here's the thing. So I'm not really a. I think people. How should I work this? Like, early release isn't really a thing. Is how the club gets released and what direction a club gets released, right? So people that think early release typically thinks this, right? Typically thinks the club gets lowered to the ground. That's not necessarily a bad thing, right? You want to release the club. Most people don't release the club early enough. It's just you guys think you're releasing too early because the intent is wrong and the direction of where the club is traveling is wrong. This is bad. Club head getting thrown out this way, your trail risks losing its bend. Sure, if you want to think of it as early release, totally. We don't want that to happen. But a better way to think about it is just to make sure that the club head travels behind you and stays behind you. You can see the club head can lower and get to the ground, but the club head is still behind the hands. As long as the club head's staying behind the hands, you're going to be in a good spot. You're going to be able to get shaft lean, right? It's when the club head gets in front of the hands, gets thrown outside the hands in a downswing, is when you don't have shaft lean. So I would suggest thinking of it like that, Robbie. I would not suggest thinking about the early release in the traditional sense of trying to of just wrist of the up and down wrist cock wrist angles. Sean, one last question. I was fitted for irons and had the upright lie angle adjusted 1.5 degrees upright. As I improve my mechanics, is this something that will need to be revisited? Is it compensating for poor form? Hard to say. Hard to say. Depends on what you're working on, right? At the end of the day, the lie angles is to help you fine tune and tighten your dispersion on your ball flight, right? Now, most of my clients, who rotate well, who shallow the club early in transition, most of them will probably be standard to a little bit flat. A couple of my clients will still be upright, but they're also really good players. I'm not going to change that. So it really depends on what you do and how you do it. If you're happy with how you're playing it, by all means, keep doing it. If you improve your mechanics, go check on your lie angles next year or in 2 years after you work on your swing, right? Just depends on what you're doing. If you're trying to work on your mechanics with someone, then I would talk to that person and get their take on it. But changing lie angles is very common. A lot of players check their lie angles once a year at the beginning of the year. So if you work on your swing this year, you can check on your swing at the end of the year or at the beginning of next year. Totally cool too, Sean. You're welcome. Yeah. So you're saying because people always say the downswing starts with the lower body, I was leaning towards working on leg drive first. Good thing I asked. Thanks, Larry. Yeah, I mean, we want to start with the what did you ask again? Yeah. So with the leg drive, yeah. So I totally want you to start with the lower body first, but there's bigger fishes to fry right now. Once you start looping it better, your arms and hands and clubs stay behind you more. Then you can start working on the legs to start the downswing first, and then you can merge the two together. That would be a better thing to look at first. But for now, making sure you loop and not be steep is a much better proposition to spend your time on right now. Yep, that's cool. No, all good, Frederick. All good. As a rule of thumb, your head should be behind the ball at impact with every club for full swing. Does that mean behind the dress also? Again, pure impact. I talked about. I think K Rutgers asked me about the head behind the ball thing. I don't think I've ever asked any of my clients to try to keep their head behind the ball. That's not an intent or a feel or anything I want anyone to try to fixate themselves on. Think of the movement as a whole. However the movement feels, however the movement wants to move, the head's going to move with. Trying to restrict your head to a particular place in space just restricts the movement. So I would not think about trying to be head behind the ball at impact or wherever, okay? Just think of the movement as a bigger picture. Do not think of your head as a singular part of your body in the swing. You're welcome, Arnold. Aaron, I've been watching all your videos and doing your drills, but I still have an issue of collapsed wrist at the top. Do I just practice? So you have to, it's not about practicing. If you're still collapsing, you're probably not practicing the right way, unfortunately. You have to video yourself and you have to exaggerate more. If you can't exaggerate it, you have to do it slower. You have to do it way slower so you can actually control how your bodies move. If you can't control how your body is moving right now, you're probably going too fast. So videoing yourself, going slow and exaggerating would be a better recipe than just practice. So really check yourself on video and go slower, Aaron, would be a good way to think about it. You're welcome, Ben. Frank, I'm one of those amateurs whose hips slide too much versus rotate. How do you coach people initially to start feeling the correct rotation? If you're someone who slides too much, I would suggest you feel like you stay on your back foot. If you stay on your back foot in the downswing, chances are you're not going to slide. So you can see if I slide, weight goes forward, right? If I stay on the back foot, I can turn a lot more. So feeling like, so you're loading 70, 80 at the top of your backswing, your trail foot. Stay on your back foot 70, 80% in the downswing, and that will prevent you from sliding, or at the very least, lower your chances of sliding and swaying. Hey, Duan, is this where you ask swim mechanics only, or can we ask other stuff like other course vlogs coming? Most of the people ask me questions to help with their swings. I mean, we see each other once a week anyways. Do one, you can just text me and ask me whatever you want to ask. But honestly, I don't know what vlogs. I don't know if course vlogs will come because of COVID restrictions still this summer. It's very tough, so it may resume next summer. So more often than not, most of the questions being asked here will be to help people with their swings. Do you want? You're welcome, Sean. Aaron, wedges. Gap, sand, and lob, is there a totally different swing on the same for all 13 clubs? I have a problem with short on my wedges. If you're making a full swing with your wedges, it should be pretty much the same intent as your 7-iron, your 4-iron, your driver. Now, the only thing is you're not going to swing at your wedges with full intent as your driver would be, right? So you got to dial it back a bit. But in terms of like mechanics, it's pretty much the same. If you struggle with hitting your wedges, I would suggest making smaller swings. You probably have some issue with your swing, some deficiency that really shows itself in your wedge swing. So I will look at that first. But if you have issues with hitting full wedges, I would suggest actually hitting half wedges more often, keeping your width, and see how that goes from there. You're welcome, Pure Impact. Do you tee up your golf ball on iron shots? If you practice your swing, who hits the ball when the ball is on ground, then shouldn't you have to change your swing to hit the ball on tee? No, the tee is really just to make things a little easier. And when you tee it up, the ball is literally like almost still touching the ball, still touching the ground. You're not going to if you're teeing up for an iron, you're not going to tee it up this high. Literally, like if you tee up an iron, it's literally like maybe like 1 millimeter or 2 above the ground when you tee it up. So don't overthink it like that. Do you want? I'm going to answer these last 2 questions and we'll call it a day. Apollo Gmail, your video, one of my favorite drills, is the best instruction I've seen. Thank you. You're welcome. It is one of my favorite drills to ask people to do. I think as a very general rule of thumb, I think doing that drill will help a lot of people out. So that's why I decided to upload that one for people on the channel. Adam, what's the most common reason a player might hit irons well but struggle with driver? If you hit irons well and you struggle with driver, chances are you're probably a little narrow. You can get away with being narrow with irons, but it's very tough to get away with being narrow with your driver. As well, you can get away with being a little steeper on irons, but you can't get away with being a little steeper on drivers. So there's probably some deficiency in your swing where you're a little narrow, you're a little steep. I would take a look at trying to be a little bit wide or trying to be a little bit less steep with the irons, and that will probably help you out with the driver. All right, I'll answer this last question. We'll call it a day. The big AC. If my backswing is good, face angle is good, what are a few reasons why I struggle in transition? Head back and up, early extension. For some reason, I can stay in my pivot, and I seem to throw my angles. I'm assuming I'm assuming you mean you cannot stay in your pivot. If you have a good backswing, chances are your concept for the downswing is incorrect. So people who stand up usually go to the lead foot too early. That's one. People who hold their wrist angles too long will also actually stand up as well. If you're someone who stands up, I would not try to think about not throwing your angles. You throwing your angles is just a function of you standing up. I would actually, if I were you, feel like you go butt back, chest down the most. If you back up an early extend, all you should really try to do in the downswing is feel like your butt goes back as your chest goes down. Whatever happens, happens, right? It really doesn't matter where the ball goes initially. If your focus is to try to not early extend, you have to do whatever it takes to keep the butt back, chest down in the downswing, and what happens, happens. That's the only thought you should be thinking of if you're trying to fix your early extension, assuming your backswing is good. Doesn't matter if you throw your angles right now, because again, that's a result of you early extending. So with that, we'll call it a day, guys. Thank you everyone for coming to watch. It has been a very productive 40 minutes or so, 44 minutes or so. So we'll do this again next Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time as normal. If I missed anything, you guys can ask next week. You can leave it in the comments and when this video goes in the replay mode. But any questions, feel free to, again, leave in the comments. We'll see you guys next week. You're welcome, Michael. You're welcome, Mark. You're welcome, Thomas. We'll see you guys next Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, okay? And have a good week. Stay safe, everybody. Stay healthy, stay safe. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks, guys.